Welcome to Module 3, Video 2 from the Safe and Effective Use of AI in Education online resources.
In the first video of this module, we had an introduction to some of the key risks related to AI and education. And in this video, we'll explore some of the risks in more detail. It's important to remember that if you have any concerns about a child's welfare, you should act on them immediately. You should refer to the statutory safeguarding guidance, Keeping Children Safe in Education, which includes information on how to protect pupils and students online, as well as your school or college's child protection policy, and speak to the designated safeguarding lead. The advice in these materials is not meant to replace your safeguarding training, but explores some of the risks that are specific to generative AI systems.
The Department for Education's Generative AI Product Safety Standards outline the capabilities and features that generative AI products and systems should meet to be considered safe for users in educational settings. They are mainly intended for EdTech developers to ensure that AI is safe by design, but schools and colleges will also find the standards helpful in assessing which AI products are safe for use in education. Key areas of the guidance include content filtering, activity monitoring, security, data protection, intellectual property, and standards on emerging harms including cognitive offloading and emotional and social development. We will cover some of these in this module in more detail. When considering online safety, we know that the online world often mirrors or even amplifies the same behaviour issues we see offline. For instance, online bullying can be much more pervasive and difficult to stop than offline bullying. With this in mind, school and college leaders should consider carrying out an annual review of their approach to online safety, supported by an annual risk assessment that considers and reflects the risks your students and pupils face. There's further guidance on this in the Leadership Toolkit. It's important to remember that safeguarding and promoting the welfare of children is everyone's responsibility. As a member of school or college staff, it's essential to understand your role in keeping children safe online. Keeping Children Safe in Education guidance highlights the importance of online safety training for all staff, ensuring you are aware of the risks and your responsibilities. You should familiarise yourself with the school or college's filtering and monitoring systems and know what to do if you have concerns about a student or pupil online activity. The designated safeguarding lead should take lead responsibility for safeguarding and child protection, including online safety and understanding the filtering and monitoring systems and processes in place. Being informed about online safety in your teaching and conversations with students and pupils will help to increase awareness of online dangers. By taking a proactive approach, you contribute to a whole school safeguarding culture that protects students and pupils in and out of the classroom. The content we create using generative AI tools can be very useful. However, as with all systems, there is the potential for misuse. In Module 2, we learned that AI systems are trained on large amounts of existing data, and so they may reproduce bias that already exists in society or replicate bias introduced by the people who designed the AI model. This means we need to critically evaluate the output to make sure it's appropriate for our use. We've previously explored some of the unintentional inaccuracies known as hallucinations that result from the way generative AI systems work. With AI audio, image and video generation tools, people can generate content that's misleading or harmful. You can make it appear that someone said or did something that they didn't, and this is known as a deepfake. A significant and evolving safeguarding risk associated with public-facing imagery is the threat of image scraping. Automated tools can harvest photos from public online platforms such as school websites or social media. These scraped images can then be used without consent, with the possibility of them being used for creation of AI-generated media or deepfake abuse materials, sometimes leading to extortion, posing a threat to child protection. Education leaders should consider their approach to publicly sharing images, considering the opinions of the whole school community, and staff should ensure they follow guidance issued by their organisation. The UK Safer Internet Centre advises that schools should limit public visibility of student images and, where necessary, consider placing them behind a secure, password-protected area, such as a parent portal, thereby reducing the vulnerability of pupil data to mass extraction and potential criminal misuse?
Well, we've had to consider very carefully what we're doing with images. So we have thought about who's using the images, why they're using the images, and what platforms the images are being posted on. And thinking also about our parents and why our parents want those images, and our parents' knowledge as well, because I think all of us as adults are a little bit behind the curve compared to our children and the pupils in schools. So we know that AI scraping's been around for quite some time. Our children have been doing it with very rudimentary tools, but now we have lots of very sophisticated software that can do that. So to support the work that we've done, we've created a booklet, an AI booklet, and this will help our schools and guide them through all of the different aspects of taking photographs and also supporting children, parents and staff with things such as consent forms. We've actually also included some examples of what's happened in real life, so that schools know that this isn't just something that we're doing for the sake of doing it, that it's actually real, it's out there, and we are going to have to, it's going to have to inform culture going forwards.
A lot of the things surrounding AI we already do, and for sharing of images, we'll always make sure that we get full consent before it goes out, and particularly with the middle school, we'll tend to just do work focus and sort of shots from behind or over shoulder shots of them doing those activities, whereas in the in the upper school we have more of a age group that can consent direct to you, and I think a lot of the time I wasn't thinking about safeguarding teachers within those, so making sure that we get consent from the teachers to put their images out.
The rise of AI-generated child sexual abuse images presents a serious safeguarding threat, with predators using AI to manipulate real images of children and create deep fake abuse material. Analysis shows that the majority of criminal AI-generated child sexual abuse material now looks highly realistic, and perpetrators are increasingly generating the most severe category of abuse scenarios. These images not only exploit children, but also re-victimize survivors of past abuse. Offenders are using such AI images to groom, blackmail, and coerce children, making detection more difficult and increasing the risks our pupils and students face online. In response, the UK has introduced laws that criminalise the possession, creation and distribution of AI tools designed to generate child sexual abuse materials. The government, alongside charities and safeguarding organisations, stress that AI misuse must be tackled, ensuring technology does not outpace child protection. School and college staff play a key role in safeguarding by staying informed, recognising risks, and supporting pupils and students in navigating the online world safely. The fact that the digital tools required to generate these images are freely available makes it more difficult to detect the creation of these materials. It also increases the potential for young people to be able to generate images that they might otherwise be blocked from accessing online. Schools and colleges need to ensure that filtering and monitoring systems are effective in dealing with these risks. You should always consult your organisation's safeguarding approaches in line with keeping children safe in education when dealing with any incidents involving illegal images to ensure that you're responding appropriately. Keeping children safe in education states that the key consideration is for staff not to view or forward illegal images of a child. The highlighted advice provides more details on what to do when viewing an image is unavoidable. In some cases, it might be more appropriate to confiscate any devices to preserve any evidence and hand them to the police for investigation.
Leaders should note that the Department for Education's Generative AI Product Safety Standards reinforce that products accessible to children must adhere to the highest filtering standards and be adapted based on user needs, including those with special educational needs and disabilities. These standards require robust monitoring features to identify and alert local supervisors to potential safeguarding disclosures made by users, as well as to log and report attempts to access prohibited content. Schools and colleges should also ensure they have filtering and monitoring systems that can identify and manage harmful AI-generated content, and should review their provision regularly to ensure it remains appropriate to their use of generative AI. All staff should follow their organisation's guidance on which tools are permitted, particularly when it comes to student-facing AI tools. In addition, it's possible for generative AI technology to be used to create very realistic avatars and chatbots that can simulate human conversation and interaction. This can make it almost impossible to distinguish between a real person and an avatar. The generative AI product safety standards are clear that AI tools should not be anthropomorphized or imply emotions, consciousness, or personhood. This is to guard against AI interactions replacing human interactions and to protect the emotional and social development of learners. The use of highly realistic AI avatars by humans has also the potential to be used for grooming. We must be particularly vigilant about AI companion apps, gadgets, or toys, which are chatbots designed to mimic human relationships, but often blur the line between technology and genuine social interaction. These companions pose serious risks, undermining normal social and emotional development, fostering emotional dependency, and, critically, engaging in explicit sexual conversations, even when the user discloses they are a child. Because AI systems are prone to hallucinations, the output can also generate misleading or inaccurate content, posing risks of emotional harm to young users who trust them to be objective and reliable. Companies must ensure that AI systems offering companionship abide by child safety laws, clearly disclose that they are not human, and should never be intentionally designed to create emotional dependency. There are serious safety risks posed by AI companionship tools where vulnerable children, particularly those who turn to bots for companionship because they feel they have no one else to talk to, face heightened risks of unintended influence and manipulation. The risk is that these systems, often unregulated, provide responses that are inaccurate or inappropriate, which is especially dangerous if they discourage young people from seeking help from trusted adults.
You know, we understand that there might be some students that might be turning to AI to be a companion for therapy, for example. So obviously we want to be completely adamant when we evaluating these AI tools that we are being conscious of the anthropomorphization of that tool and trying to reduce that actual relationship that the students will have with the AI.
I've had a few examples where students have been reporting that they've been speaking to these adults on their phone, which has triggered safeguard concerns, and it's turned out that it's actually the WhatsApp AI they're speaking to, and they don't realise that that isn't a real person. In any of those cases, they had no comprehension that it wasn't a real person they're speaking to. And that's outside of school time, that's not within school. But that's just a really great example of where these students don't understand it's not a real person. When it came to delivering AI lessons on how AI works, I had a look at all the resources out there, and they're all great for high-functioning students that are functioning at their neurotypical levels. But when you started to think about students that don't understand the concept of bias, is it ethical to teach that student how to use AI? Because if they can't understand what bias is, can they understand the entire process? These emotional attachments are something that can be really, really impactful for students. And it is, are we promoting the right spaces where students still can have those conversations with adults? Because at the end of the day, AI wants to please. And that's what these students are finding a lot of the time, is the AI isn't telling them no. It's not telling them, well, we've only got a few minutes to talk. Which can sound positive, but actually, if that student needs support around their social interactions, it's not. It can be really damaging, because if they then start to think that's how humans actually interact, they're going to bring that into the human space, which is going to lead to even more problems. So it's something that I think a lot of people aren't considering at the moment is those students that don't understand the concept of things like bias and misinformation. How can we teach them how to use AI effectively? And should we be teaching them how to use these AI tools if they don't understand those things?
So we've noticed that there are a broad variety of risks presented to children which match the broad variety of AI tools out there. So things that we've become aware of are the generation of child sexual abuse material. So not only children coming across this material, but perhaps being the creators of such material. So using nudifying apps and other such technologies to create imagery, either for curiosity purposes or sometimes for more sinister, exploitative, blackmailing purposes of peers at school. Also in the remit of adult content, thinking about children who access AI tools to create adult content, whether that be text or other imagery, so not necessarily involving children, but pornographic images. So we've seen that from the schools that we work with, that children sometimes use very well-known tools to come up with sexually explicit text and also pornographic images. Other concerns are things like the use of AI bots and companions, and the concerns related to advice being given to young people. So whether that be harmful advice. So we've seen examples of things like AI bots talking about relationships, how to isolate yourself from your parents, how to have dieting advice for some young people, how to change your physical appearance. And also we've seen an increase in concerns relating to children and going to AI companions for advice on mental health issues.
One approach to addressing these risks is to include learning about some of the issues linked to AI within the school curriculum. The National Centre for Computing Education has produced curriculum resources for Key Stage 3 that schools can incorporate into their computing programmes of study. These materials focus on helping students understand the fundamental principles of how AI works and explore the ethical implications of AI technologies. Separately, Common Sense Media has developed materials that can support delivery of personal development curriculum, and that explores people's relationships with AI, such as short lessons on friendships and chatbots. They've also produced some AI risk assessments that can be a useful resource to support an understanding of the risks. Some schools have told us that they've shared these risk assessments with parents.
And we assume that young people know a lot more than they actually do know. They know what ChatGPT is, they know what Gemini is, but that's as far as they know. They know it's called a large language model, but they don't actually understand how the AI actually works. So it's really important for us at that core understanding, and myself as a computer science teacher, is to actually understand how the AI works. Because if you know how the AI works, and it uses data, and it uses algorithms, and it produces output, it makes predictions, then you can understand how large language models actually work. And you can understand that some of the information that they give to you is just based on the data that it's fed into it. One of the biggest misconceptions we find is that students often don't understand what hallucinations are, that they don't necessarily know to check the information, even though the AI will spit that out at them. And that's one of the core things that we teach here, and it's really important that they understand that, yes, it can hallucinate. One of the other things that's really, really key for us is understanding is the ethics in AIs and those AI systems that are being built.
Our librarian already supports with critical thinking in the curriculum for our Year 7 and 8 students. So that's always been part of their role. And our librarian is very on it in terms of being aware of AI. And I've definitely involved the librarian in discussions around especially this cognitive impact idea.
So as part of the AI journey, I have created a upper Key Stage 2 unit of learning, which is all about how AI works. And particularly for our Year 5 and 6 students that obviously be going to Year 7 and going into a big world where AI is not necessarily sometimes so friendly, I wanted children to understand about how AI works. I wanted to understand about the ethics of AI and also about how it's already being used.
So we've reviewed our computing curriculum quite a few times over the past few years, but more recently with the updates from the Department for Education, we've had to have a real shift and focus on ensuring that AI isn't just something that is added on to our curriculum, but is a core component of the digital literacy strand of our curriculum. So we have 11 sort of core themes that define what we teach in computing, and AI is one of those themes. And in Key Stage 3, we focus on like how we can use AI. So in Year 8, students use a platform that is designed and set up to support students to look at machine learning models, and they use a platform to train an AI by using training data of apples and oranges, and they put in different examples of red apples and oranges, and try and see if they can, if the AI can output the correct label, whether it is an apple or an orange.
So a key aspect of our approach to personal development at Chiltern Learning Trust is our belief that the personal development curriculum is bespoke to the community it serves, bespoke to each school, and just bespoke around what's unique about the pupils within that school. That means that our personal development curriculum is an ever-evolving beast. We continually come back to it and look at it as the community changes, as themes emerge through daily life. AI adds another really interesting layer to that, in that, as we know, our use of AI, our understanding of AI, and the development of AI is continually evolving too. So in terms of that use and that focus within the personal development curriculum, that will be another aspect that we need to keep a really sharp focus on, a really keen eye on, and continue to monitor, evaluate, review to ensure that our approach for our pupils is contemporary, holds value for them, and is up to date with the challenges and the benefits associated with it.
We got further down the line, we've reviewed our computing curriculum, we've reviewed our PSHE curriculum, and we've plotted that now from years 7 all the way through to year 13, and looking at making sure the students learn in a safe space how they can use AI and how not to use AI, but how they can use that effectively and safely.
The UK's 2023 counter-terrorism strategy highlights that emerging technologies, including generative AI, present risks and opportunities for counter-terrorism efforts. While the initial focus was on early experimentation, there is now evidence of active, albeit still developing, exploitation of generative AI tools by terrorist and violent extremist groups across various ideologies. Terrorist groups are moving beyond simple deepfake propaganda to use generative AI to augment and accelerate their content creation, develop sophisticated, targeted recruitment strategies using AI-powered chatbots, and refine practical instructions for attack facilitation. Advances in AI chatbots present a new dynamic, with the potential for vulnerable or isolated individuals to be radicalized through closed-loop one-to-one interaction. As AI develops at pace, there remains a risk that terrorist and extremist content will become more convincing and harder to detect. This is compounded by generative AI's ability to produce high-volume variants of content, a tactic known as media spawning, specifically engineered to bypass automated content moderation systems on social media platforms. The UK government is responding through its Contest 2023 framework, which commits to investing in future threat identification and adapting policies to mitigate these new technology-enabled threats, and by implementing the Online Safety Act 2023. This imposes new duties on user-to-user and search services to proactively take steps to identify and remove illegal terrorist content swiftly, regardless of whether it was generated by a human or an automated tool. You should make a prevent referral when you are worried that someone is vulnerable to radicalization or showing behaviours that indicate they may be at risk of being drawn into terrorism or extremist ideology. Educators have a vital role to play in supporting young people to develop critical thinking skills. As one AI early adopter leader noted in a DFE Commission study by Ofsted, confronting the developing technology head-on is crucial. We're only just at the start of this AI era, and the biggest risk is doing nothing and assuming that you can just continue as is. Enabling pupils and students to recognise AI-generated misinformation and disinformation, question extremist narratives, and navigate the online space safely aligns with the Prevent duty, which requires schools and colleges to safeguard students from radicalisation by building their resilience to extremist content and online influence. Keeping children safe in education explicitly includes misinformation, disinformation, including fake news, and conspiracy theories as examples of online content risks that can be safeguarding harms to children. Schools and colleges should ensure their approach to online safety and related policies actively addresses these risks. Disinformation is defined as the deliberate creation and spread of false or misleading content, while misinformation is the unintentional spread of this false or misleading content. Recognising these as content risks under the 4 C's of online safety reinforces the need for educational settings to equip pupils with strong critical thinking and media literacy skills to help them safely navigate and evaluate the information they encounter online.
We've got to think really carefully about how we safeguard people, both in terms of protecting their data, and that's not just their sort of personal data, but also protecting what they produce, because we know that when those things go into an AI model, they sort of become lost to you in terms of your ownership of that information. So we need to think really carefully about that. We also need to think about the impact that AI outside of school is having on us as human beings. So the way that it's being used in social media, the way that we're interacting with other things, and it's influencing what we think because the AI is showing us more things that it thinks we like.
To help mitigate this, schools and college leaders should ensure they have an effective child protection policy in place, which includes reference to online safety. This should be regularly reviewed to ensure that they are kept up to date with safeguarding issues as they emerge and evolve, as set out in Keeping Children Safe in Education. As school and college staff, we must all be aware of the potential for AI tools to be used to generate misleading or harmful content, and look for opportunities to enhance pupils' and students' understanding about misinformation and deepfakes alongside the laws that are in place. Critical thinking and AI literacy are the terms often used to describe approaches that can be promoted within the existing curriculum. We saw in earlier modules that some AI models are trained with texts that are inputted as a prompt, and this means we need to be particularly careful about the information we enter as prompts. Entering sensitive or personal information may result in a data breach, which should be reported promptly to your data protection officer. You can mitigate this by only using AI tools for work that are provided by your school or setting and which have appropriate safeguards in place. The Department for Education's Data Protection in Schools project developed a video offering guidance on protecting children's privacy when using AI. You should avoid entering any personal information or student work into an AI system unless your setting has said it's safe to do so and appropriate permissions are in place. It's also very important to be transparent about how you're using the tools. This can be achieved by leaders considering systems and approaches within school or college policies, and through schools considering their approach to consulting and working with parents on the way that AI is being used. In surveys, parents have expressed concern that directly relate to safeguarding and systemic risk. This hesitation is reflected in the Parent Kind National Parent Survey 2025, showing that only 12% of parents think AI should be used in lessons. While parents express comfort with AI assisting teachers with administrative tasks, their discomfort rises significantly when considering pupils interacting directly with AI systems, particularly unsupervised. Key concerns centre on the potential for AI use to lead to over-reliance by teachers and pupils, resulting in a loss of key social and technical skills. One pupil in the DFE's 2024 Research on Public Attitudes towards the Use of AI in Education expressed the worry that it feels really detrimental to use a lot of AI because in the long term, you won't know anything.
When using AI, it's crucial to understand the difference between data protection and intellectual property. These are two distinct legal considerations that sometimes get confused. Under UK GDPR, if you're processing personal data, that's information that identifies an individual, such as pupil names, assessment or work, for example, you must have a lawful basis. This could be consent, contract, legal obligation, vital interests, public task, or legitimate interest. Before using any AI tool that processes personal data, you must ensure it complies with UK GDPR. If the tool stores, learns from, or shares the data, you could be breaching data protection law unless appropriate safeguards are in place. Using only approved tools in your setting, often known as enterprise tools, and following the appropriate policy in your organisation will help to mitigate these risks. If you're unsure, speak to a leader in your school or college. Intellectual property, or IP, is a separate issue. IP law protects original creative work, including lesson plans, teaching resources, and pupils' and students' work. If you've used an AI tool that trains on uploaded content, you need to ask, do I have the legal right or necessary permissions to use this material, and who owns the copyright? For instance, under UK copyright law, a pupil or student automatically owns the copyright of their written work, artwork, or other creative outputs. If you upload their work into an AI system that stores or reuses it, you may need their explicit permission or the permission of a parent or guardian, depending on the circumstances. To summarise, data protection is about safeguarding personal data and ensuring that you have a lawful basis for processing it. Intellectual property law is about ownership and permission for using copyrighted materials, including learning resources and pupils' or students' work. Before using AI, always check both to ensure compliance. To help you do this, you should follow your school or college procedures and guidance and speak to a leader in your organisation if you're unsure about how your organisation approaches this. In the case of student or pupil work, we could be infringing intellectual property rights if, for example, we were to enter their work into an AI system for marking or feedback. Intellectual property covers a broader range of creative and original works, including text, images, music and code. While personal data laws focus on protecting individuals, IP laws protect the rights of content creators and copyright holders.
Before using AI to generate or manipulate content based on someone else's work, such as using a large language model for marking or feedback on student work, permissions must be obtained from the rights holder. This distinction is crucial because an individual's work may be protected even if it does not contain personal data. We should be certain that the AI system being used doesn't train on the work that we enter and it meets the Department for Education's product safety standards. This can be achieved by only using tools approved by your organisation for this purpose. In the example of marking student work, it's important to be transparent about how AI is being used and sure that the AI tool is fit for purpose. It must always be used with human oversight and not used to replace the important human feedback we know can be very effective in improving progress. Educators, organisations and AI developers must be aware of both requirements to ensure compliance with legal and ethical standards when using AI tools. It's also important to only use AI systems approved by your setting. In the example we're about to hear from Scott Hayden, his college provides access to an AI system for students. They did this really carefully and ensured it was a closed system that doesn't train on the data or prompts given by users. It also has appropriate monitoring, filtering and reporting built in with regard to the Department for Education's product safety standards and to keeping children safe in education guidance. They also provided training for the students to help them get the best out of it and use it safely.
So the way we've considered the potential drawbacks of AI is to be very transparent with our policy when learners start our courses at the college. So they are presented with the policy, do's and don'ts, and they agree to it in enrolments, and they have it made very clear to them as part of their AI module they do in week 1 as part of their induction, how to use AI the right way, and also what constitutes using AI the wrong way. We try to make that as unambiguous as possible. We also state very clearly that it is against our policy to counterfeit human likeness. We have zero tolerance for counterfeiting human likeness. So what I mean by that is to take somebody and to counterfeit text, audio, image or video, of somebody else without their consent, we have zero tolerance for that, because we've seen horrific instances of this being done. And with the rise of deep fakes and other uses of AI that are less than nice, we need to be very clear about the fact that we use AI to help us learn, we use it the right way, and we need to show them very clearly and state very clearly what is unacceptable.